morning, everybody. Yep, we're live on a Wednesday morning. It's just after 6 o'clock. And look at those brave faces. Look at, there's Gilli. There's Gilli Apter looking so brave for 6 a.m. And Simphiwe looking like a ray of sunshine. Look at you girls. I could just put you on the screen and everyone will stay all day.
Thank you.
You don't have to. Yeah, look, Gilli's just checking whether we've got the same thing going on our cameras.
Exactly.
All right, what's happening, Gilli? Haven't seen you in a while.
Exactly.
You good?
I'm good. Yeah, doing well. I mean, it's the night. I don't know if you know this, but it's the night. I just looked out the window.
Yeah, I know. And again, for some bizarre reason, I woke up extra early this morning, and I hopped in the shower, and I was like, why? We could do this at any time, I suppose, because people listen to podcasts whenever they want to, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
We're punishing ourselves. It's like obviously there's a live audience that insists on being here at the start of the day, but
you don't know what audience would await you later. Maybe it would be better than these guys.
You're right. You know what? I'm
great
appointing
point.
you our official consultant, and from now on you can make executive decisions about the show.
Thank you. I don't think anything should take place before 10 a.m. Nothing, not a thing.
This is why we have you on the show, girl. This is why.
You know?
Mhm.
Speaking so much sense so early. Yes.
So
I'm a very sensible person, I will say.
we had your friend Nina Hasty on the other day, and she told us like you've become almost like her comedy friend stroke therapist stroke lift to wherever she's going person. And that we had no idea. I mean, like I always think of you as being this and by the way, I've seen so much of what you've been doing on Instagram lately. It looks like you are flying. So congrats on all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, compared to where everybody was in the middle, especially in comedy in the middle of COVID, I mean, this is so many steps ahead, and it's just so great to see comedy's coming back and people are going to support shows, and you've been overseas a couple of times. It's really terrific.
It's great. First, let me say, Nina, my dear friend, she's actually the designated driver. I don't drive her. She drives me.
Oh, wow.
Because, she's sober. So it's very handy. It's very handy as a comedian to have a good friend who doesn't drink. And so she's the designated driver. But what that does is it leaves my hands free so that when I'm shouting at her, I can really express myself. And I can like point and be like, really go all the way with my arguments.
You know, Seinfeld's got that comedians in cars with coffee thing that he's been doing for a while. He's had Obama on there. He's had some incredible guests, kind of all the funniest people in the world. And I'm just imagining the two of you and thinking about how many of us would love to just be sitting in the back seat, just eavesdropping on the hilarious conversation.
Sometimes people have been in the car with us and it's hectic for them. I will tell you that, because it's like comedians in cars getting aggressive. That's the name of our show. And sometimes we argue or fight, and then the other comedians are it's like, when parents, when your couple friends fight, or like your parents fight, then you have to just sit there and wait for it to be over. That's kind of like what it's like for them.
Yeah.
It's just this is awkward.
Yeah, exactly. I never know what to say when two people who know each other really, really well and who mostly get along are having a proper argument with each other. You don't want to get involved. You just sit in the back there and kind of hope it'll be done before you get to the end of the
like
trip.
Beyonce must have felt at the Oscars.
Yeah, well.
She was just like, security, can I leave already?
Imagine what it's like. I always think, like, in the reality of the situation, like, imagine what it's like to be like Will's friend, and you're like, this is he did it now. Oh no. And it's like it's awkward,
Well, apparently Chris Rock has offered to make up for his horrible comments about Jada's hair and what many people thought was a joke, what Will Smith clearly didn't. And he said what he'll do to make up for it is just sleep with Jada, because that seems to be okay in Will's book. So if I can get that right.
So they're going to be in an entanglement.
Yes, sounds like it. And now that we've got ourselves another entanglement. Great. Thanks very much.
Wow. Do you think as a comedian it's ever okay for someone to get so upset about a joke that they threaten or actually perpetrate physical violence? Just as a quick aside here, because I know that you've probably got some wacky opinions.
You know what? I know that like it's very easy for me to say like it's absolutely unacceptable to do something like that, because generally speaking, I do think it's unacceptable. But there is I don't know. Everybody has a line. I think Will's line is just very low.
Yeah,
I just because I can think of a few things that I would punch somebody over.
Yeah.
But they would have to be extremely severe. It would have to be, and I think the person would have to be whoever the comedian was would have to say something like completely deranged for me to get to that point.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you've also been in the public eye for a while. I do think there's a huge amount of this that we are. You kind of accept that it's part of the job too. That not everybody's going to
Totally.
like. Some people are going to say shitty things, and really, like, it's kind of a day-to-day test, especially if you are a regular on television or if you're in movies like Will Smith or whatever, because people have always got something to say about you, and it's almost like it's easy to say, well, I'll never react. I can handle this, and it's all okay. It's all just, it's all fun and games. And then just one day, someone says something that just gets you in the wrong way. I mean, you've seen the paparazzi. I mean, politicians in Britain, for example, have assaulted the paparazzi. They've like climbed into them, fists and teeth, and feet and shins and everything. So it does happen, and it happens to people who you'd never think would get upset, and they just eventually snap. Everybody has that point somewhere. Where
I do think, looking at the situation, like the guy seemed like he just seemed a little bit unhinged. I think he's certainly going through something,
Well, he laughed at the jokes.
Well, yeah, I just think the guy's going through something, and I do think he's something of like, I mean, I've always loved Will Smith, but I recently read his book, and actually, yeah, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant to see like how much of a part of our culture he was, and like seeing the backstory behind it. Because if you grew up like in the 80s, and if you grew up in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, you grew up with Will Smith, and it's like to hear all the backstories to all of the things that were so much like in the fabric of growing up. You know what I mean? Part of our like pop culture history. It was fascinating to read. But I do think he's an egomaniac.
You have to be to get to that level, I think. They're just it's pretty much
he became an egomaniac. Absolutely.
Yeah, even if you start off with good intentions, eventually the whole system is just designed to turn you into a complete narcissistic moron. Totally. And that's also why even the best people, you give them too much power, you give them too much attention, and they just turn bad. We've all seen it happen on social media.
I can't wait to turn bad. Like, I am going to turn bad immediately. Yeah, I know. Guys.
Oh, you must do sign up to the Church of Scientology. Step 1.
Okay, thank you very much. I am going to do that immediately. You're so right. Actually, there's a very good network there. Maybe like Tom Cruise could help me with my career.
You see?
Probably good.
You're so smart. That's such a good idea.
So
I think so. I think it's like I'm going to become like insane. I will punch somebody. I mean, I want to punch someone with every like 10 extra followers I get on Instagram. So I can't imagine what it would be like if I was in the front row of the Oscars,
What kind of things do you think you would do when you become a spoilt, really self-involved, self-absorbed nutcase who's only concerned with their own reputation and image? What kinds of crazy shit can we expect from Gilli? Are you going to be doing things like hiring private jets and just you on board with like 3 people just to serve you drinks and food?
No, I've never believed that. I've never understood private jets. Like, what's the point of being like in business or first class if no one can see you? Like, if you can't walk past like people in the line and just be like like breeze past it. What's the point of that? I don't understand. So no, I wouldn't do that. I'd do like more subtle things. Like I would like tell people what I really think of them.
All right. If you
and like I'd tell people, yes, exactly. I'd tell people what I really think of them. I would tell comedians what I really think of their comedy. I think I'd be less polite. That's what I'm saying. I'd be less polite.
I love that.
Yeah.
Don't mess with Gilli, guys. Don't mess with her. She'll tell you the truth.
Steph is just talking about your reminiscing about Will Smith through reading his book, and Steph remembers the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air Wednesdays at dinner time on, like, it must have been
That's a good
SABC
memory.
or must have been, right?
Gosh, I don't even must have been. I don't remember.
Wow.
I really, I mean, I loved that show so much, and I loved him in that show. There was nothing cooler than him in that show. Nothing.
Yeah, and remember here in South Africa, we didn't get to see any like real
Totally nothing. We didn't get to see anything.
black families or black sitcoms or any of that stuff. I think we eventually got the Jeffersons and the Cosby Show and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Otherwise, it was all like these very sanitized, pure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
biblical-
think they had that in America either for a very long
No.
time.
They probably didn't.
So yeah.
They probably didn't. So Simphiwe's actually got a little update on some gossip for us, which doesn't extend all the way to Hollywood, but it's here. So apparently, I've got to be honest with you, Simphiwe, I don't know a whole lot about this story, but Black Les and Dineo, what are they doing? And just for the people who don't know who the hell these guys are, just help inform everybody right from the outset. Give us a bit of context here.
Okay, so Dinar Ranaka is a radio personality or media personality,
We used to have Dineo on Cliff Central, so she's quite well known to our audience, I should think, and she is no stranger to controversy, to TV, to radio. She's had her own reality show about her and her family.
She's done it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she has a kid with a rapper called Black Les, and she recently just uploaded a video, like a teaser on YouTube, that they had a sit-down conversation about their relationship, and it looks so intense. So the actual interview is only coming out on like the 6th of April, but I was just watching that and I was just like, wow, this is brave. Like, would I ever sit down with an ex or ex-friend and be like, yeah, so what did you do in this relationship that made us, go separate ways? Or what did you learn? Or are you mature enough to admit that you hurt me? Like, 'cause that's how they were going at it. He was just like, you know what? Give me some time to actually grow up and be mature. I was like, excuse me, sir. Like, wow. So I'm excited about that, but I'm just also curious to know, like, would you guys ever do that? Would you guys actually have a sit-down conversation with an ex?
I mean, I would do that with the greatest of pleasure. I don't know if I'd televise it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
the difference.
I get along with most of my exes, so I'm not looking for them. I mean, when you've broken up with someone, you don't want to spend time trying to find them and catch up the whole time. I don't actively avoid them, but I don't have a problem with any of them, and I don't think any of them hate me, as far as I know. I mean, maybe they harbor.
It's quite an achievement.
Not
specifically for you, for anyone.
Especially, some people would say it's a special achievement for me. But the fact is, you don't really know what's going on in someone's head, but I don't think any of them hate me. And I reckon if anyone did sit in a conversation where we were both at lunch together or whatever, and they wouldn't necessarily think that these were two people who were unpacking some horrible history together or any of that shit. So maybe the two of them don't have they've got a kid together, so you kind of have to figure stuff out, right?
Must have some drama. They must have some drama.
Yeah.
I mean, unless if
it's
going to be televised, if it's going to be televised, they've got to know there must be something there to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be like, it was so nice when we were like so kind to each other. Oh, I loved it when you were kind to me. Yeah, we had the best time being kind all the time.
Yeah, and that's why we stayed together anymore. Exactly.
It was too much kindness.
It was going so well that we decided we just had to be apart.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, well, that's interesting. Okay.
You will have to be you'll have to be our eyes and ears on this one, Simphiwe. I'm not, me. I haven't even watched that Sex in Afrikaans thing that Bakabantu told us to watch the other day. So I haven't watched much TV lately.
I haven't either. I only watch my own show, which is
Do you watch your own stuff? Netflix. Because I know people who just cannot watch their own stuff. Do you watch it and then criticize yourself?
No, I absolutely cannot. For this Netflix thing, I had to watch a first draft of it, basically. And the only reason I watched it was because I didn't want to be taken by surprise on anything, Right. But I watched it like this.
Yeah.
And then did you have any like edits to be like, okay, take that part out?
I had so
put that
many
in?
edits. They didn't use any of them. I would have turned that entire thing inside out.
Oof, you see, this is it. Like, I suppose maybe you're one of those people who they always, in creative terms, there was this brilliant, it must have been, it was a podcast. It was Malcolm Gladwell who compared like Picasso and Cézanne. And in music, he used Bob Dylan and who did the Hallelujah? God damn, it's just like
I can't. I would be terrible on like a quiz show.
Anyway, so what he did is he compared their processes, and he said, you know, Picasso would churn out like 5 canvases in a day if he wanted to, and then Cézanne would spend months and months trying to perfect one painting, and so his output was much less, but they both were amazing artists. And it sounds to me like your process is, given half a chance, you would sit there and polish and
100%.
change and paste and fix and remove and re-record until like 3 years had passed and people were like, well, where's that Netflix special, you know?
Yes, absolutely. But I also think there's something to be said for like you can protect something, and I am a natural editor. I've worked in film for most of my life, and so I immediately see where something can be cut for precision, for better storytelling, for for timing, for improvement, and it's an improvement where the audience member doesn't notice. Like an audience member won't look at that thing and go, oh, they should have cut this part out. There's nothing like that in the set. But if I had gotten my hands on it, I can tell you it would have been like 30% better. Nobody would know. It would just be like, oh, this is really good, as opposed to this is okay.
But this is why maybe you weren't involved. It's like doctors don't make the great patients because they know what you're supposed to do. But in that moment, you shouldn't be the one operating on yourself, girl.
To some extent, yes. But then you have to trust the people who you're working with, especially when it's your image, right? This is not like, it's less of like a doctor operating and more like a plastic surgeon, you know? I want to be involved in like what he's going to do to my face. It's like that.
That's a good way of putting it. But you know that they've done, in terms of business, they've done a whole lot of research recently into these people who want to perfect things, because we need them in the world, right? These perfectionists, they're the kind of people who will make sure that everything is done absolutely as well as it is possible to do it. What they've discovered is that people in business who are trying to make a product, for example, if they get to 85, 90% of what they want, they must press go, because the amount of energy and effort and time and resources that goes into getting that extra 10 to 15% right is not worth it.
Absolutely.
It actually holds up the whole process, and it makes it impossible for people to go to market with products. I suppose
get that.
Same could be true for what you do or what an artist does or whatever.
I've learned to teach myself to press go, to like stop trying to perfect everything and just be, the whole thing where they say like done is better than perfect, because there are a lot of things where I spend way too much time perfecting before I ever get something out. I see Mutanda said Jeff Buckley. It's actually Leonard Cohen. It was covered by Jeff Buckley. There's a beautiful podcast about the making of Hallelujah, that song. I think it's on Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, but it's about. That's the one. Is it? It's epic. It tells you like the whole lifespan of that song. It's unbelievable.
Well, yeah, he was such a perfectionist that he kept changing the lyrics, he kept changing the pace, the tempo. He rearranged the song every other day, and he was just completely consumed with making this thing as perfect as possible. And then, Bob Dylan comes along and you're like, and he's a huge hit straight up. And you're like, poor Leonard Cohen. But both.
That's a good Bob Dylan impersonation.
Bob Dylan, you just don't know. People don't know what Bob Dylan's saying anytime. So you just go, have you ever heard that song of his called A Leopard Skin Pillbox Head?
I don't know. Maybe I have.
So the only reason I know about it is because when we were doing Idols, Randall, who's like the biggest music nerd ever, said to me, you have to listen to this Bob Dylan song that nobody really, only hardcore Dylan fans know it exists. And it goes, how do you look like that in that leopard skin pillbox head? And it's all about this woman who's wearing only a leopard skin pillbox hat, which is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life. So now it's stuck in my head.
Great.
Whenever I think of Bob Dylan, I think of that stupid song.
You actually sound like Cartman during Bob Dylan.
Wow. All right.
Oh my
All right.
word.
So yesterday, I got a message. Well, we all did on the Cliff Central group. We have a work group like everybody has these days, and it was from Barrett, who's our sales guy, and he sent this to us about what's the latest fashion in men's underwear. Mantees. Look at these. These are apparently panties for men. It's got like a big sort of pouch in the front for the balls and the cock, and then the rest is like lacy, like a woman's underwear, but it's really gross. I can't imagine.
Gareth, what emotions does this bring up in you when you see this?
Look, I mean, first and foremost, I reckon there must be some kind of admission of disgust in me. I'm not proud of that, but I could not wear this without feeling intense shame for myself.
Well, you don't know that because actually, that fabric looks quite nice and soft and silky.
I must tell you, I kind of can. I can tell that if I put that on, I would not feel good about it. But if I saw it on someone else, I would have to really stop myself from laughing.
Yes.
Because I don't think that's. Listen, I mean, there are reasons that certain brands of female underwear and certain brands of male underwear are considered the best ones, and why people like them, because there is kind of an objective thing going on there. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I don't know that there are a lot of guys in the world who will be catching on to the trend of mantees. It's just not something I can see taking off terribly well. What do you think, Simphiwe?
I mean, it's a no from me. It's a hell no. Like I'm not comfortable with sharing lace underwear with my man. I'm sorry. Like when it's time, doing the laundry and say, "Oops, babe, I'm sorry, this belongs to you." Or is this mine? Oh no. I'm not about those chats. No.
You know what I think? I think that we three are not the target market for that product.
So who is? Who's the target market for mantees?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm trying to stretch my brains here to try and picture who would look really good.
Someone invented it. Yeah. So I don't know. Someone invented it.
If this takes off, imagine you go out on a date and you decide you really like this dude, and you end up going home together, either his place or yours, and things are starting to get exciting. And maybe the lights are on, and then people are getting undressed, and you kind of out of the corner of your eye, you catch a glimpse of something like this. That's going to be probably a mood killer for most people. How do you think you would react?
I'm going home. Thank you so much. This is great, but it's time for me to leave.
I do think I'd have a strong reaction. Yes.
Like you wore this. This is what you wear all day, every day.
All right.
What's the real story here? Like,
I have a lot of questions.
Sven is saying, Gareth, go for it, try it on. Well, I wouldn't even know where to find them, but I promise you that's not going to happen, and not because I just know, like I will not be able to do anything but laugh. Michael
I would really like to hear from someone who would wear those and tell us why, and I'd really be interested in knowing.
I'm in agreement. Let's hear from those people. Vyasan says it goes well with the man bun and bum.
No.
Yeah, I love underpants. Bring it on, says Robin. Okay, all right. But Robin's a girl, so she likes men's underpants. That's fine. I think that's okay, right?
Somebody's saying they look so breathable.
Steve E says, I think Harry must have quite a few. I think you mean Prince Harry. Mantees are for transgender pre-op patients, says Parallel Parking. I don't know if you're being sarcastic or honest.
Hard to say.
No, it's hard to tell. A lot of people saying Will Smith was wearing those at the Oscars. The dude that just won the ladies swimming race will wear those. Some of my male friends, says Hanging Out with Jay, already wear something similar without the penis bag. Ooh, okay.
Interesting.
You're in a very progressive
Okay. There you go.
friends there. Okay.
I like that. Yeah, I want to hear feedback on the product. Real
Yes.
feedback.
If there is anyone who has worn such a thing, do you remember there was all that outrage once because I think it was David Beckham once admitted in an interview, I like to wear my wife's panties. And somebody said something, and then it all got out in the press, and then for about, I don't know, because this is in the days before social media, so people really went out to town on a piece of information like that. And for months, it was like, oh, David Beckham wears his wife's panties. And then there were all these guys who were like, they felt it was okay then to admit that they also did that. And it wasn't I don't know if it was such a big deal after that. But these are a whole new level. Man-tees.
Wait,
these are designed. I mean, I like wearing men's boxes, for example.
Okay.
Makes sense. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out, how did David Beckham fit in his wife's, and because they're two different sizes.
See, that's the
you don't know that they're two different sizes. You don't know that they're two different sizes. You don't know that. You don't know that for a fact. You do not.
I don't know.
Fair.
That could be the real controversy here.
Have you gone there with to measure? No,
exactly.
Yeah,
you have no
fair
idea.
enough.
You can't claim any intimate knowledge of this. You have no idea. Steve E says it's another push to destroy masculinity. Ethan says David Beckham is quite skinny.
There you go.
Wow. All right. Well, hey, people, don't kink shame people, huh? This is what they tell you. Don't kink shame anybody. All right. Simphiwe wants to deal with an issue before we get to some headlines for this morning, which I don't think is that controversial, but she had a mini episode in the office yesterday about this, because when we got back from Mexico, we brought Jane and Lebang. By their request, they'd asked us to get some beach sand and some seawater from Mexico, right? And bring it home for them in a little water bottle.
From Mexico, of all places.
Yes. So
okay.
This was the only request that either Lebang or Jane had made. They didn't really care for other presents. They wanted seawater. And when the seawater... I would
have asked for tequila.
Well, you would think, right? But when the seawater was produced, Jane was thrilled. It was her favorite thing in the whole world. In fact, Simphiwe, didn't you take a picture of Jane with her bottle of seawater? Yeah.
I'm going to show you how happy she was. But I don't understand this obsession that I think it's a black people thing. Dare I say it?
Yeah.
With seawater. Like they go to the beach. They go to the beach and collect seawater. Like, what? Why? It's not like you're going to drink it. It's not like you can do anything. Like, I don't understand why they do that.
Is it something holy? Is it to do with like spirituality?
Nope. They're not going to even cleanse their house. Nope. They just want it for decor.
No. I've heard. So correct me if I'm wrong here, but I mean, there are also, not all black people are party to the same set of beliefs or superstitions or ideas or sacredness or religions or whatever. So, again, Simphiwe can't answer on behalf of everyone, but I've also heard that there are people who use the seawater in a traditional medicine sense for like purging, to kind of clear out the bad from the body. So actually drink seawater.
Oh, that sounds dangerous.
Wait, that I don't understand why they do that. Like, for me, it's like, this is great. Let's go to the beach. Why we not bring the water back home? Why we bring the sand back home? And this is a thing that, like, they'll collect. They'll have, like, different bottles of the different beaches they've been to, and they'll tell you, oh, this one is from Durban. This is from Cape Town. Oh, this is from Mexico. And you're like, okay, guys, but why is this here? Why? Why are we doing this? Like, why?
I used to collect like Coca-Cola bottles from different places in the world, and people would bring them back for me. So maybe it's the same. But for me, that was a spiritual thing.
Really? The Coca-Cola was spiritual?
I've always believed in the healing properties of Coca-Cola. And so I think it had something to do with that. But like, for example, I think when like for Jewish people, like if you go to the Dead Sea or like the Sea of Galilee or something, it's like meaningful to bring back water from that sea. But I don't know if that's spiritual or historical or.
Well, I mean, some people collect rocks, you know. I mean, I know a couple of people who, wherever they go, they'll pick up a little rock from somewhere special and they'll bring it home, and then they'll have a whole bowl full of rocks, and they can actually tell you which rock comes from where. And I don't see how that's any different to the seawater thing that Simphiwe is describing. But Dogozo says, I see all these Joburgers collecting seawater at the beach here all the time, and that doesn't sound like he approves of it.
Where's here? Where is here? I wonder.
Well, he's in KZN, I think. Vyasan says, my dad used to bring his best friend seawater all the time. He used it to cleanse his home.
You see, so maybe it is spiritual.
See?
Spiwe, maybe we've been left out of the spiritual aspect of this endeavor.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something? I saw a TikTok video that cracked me up. And it was like, this is why white people don't have problems. It's because they go to church and then they pray about it and they talk to the good Lord. Black people, on the other hand, they go get a goat. They tell the goat the problems. They slaughter the goats and then chiggy, they eat the goats with all their problems. And you see, this is why.
You know, like this makes so much more sense to me. It makes so much more sense. That is so much more practical. I so much would rather tell my problems to a goat
than a psychologist. Well,
than a Lord that never reveals itself.
Well,
at least the goat is there.
This is actually intimately involved in most of the monotheisms. The idea of scapegoating is a well-known practice in the Middle East from thousands of years ago, where people would load all their problems onto an animal, usually a goat. They'd send it into the wilderness to die with their problems on it, and then their problems would die in the desert. So, you know, writ large, this is the story of kind of what Christians did with Jesus. They load him with all their sins, and then he dies on the cross for them. So you want to talk to a religious scholar about this? They'll tell you that there's deep roots for this kind of thing. Deep roots.
Well, I'll tell you this. I lived in the Eastern Cape for like a year, okay, and like on a farm. Okay, this was a very dark time in my life.
We won't ask questions, okay?
No. We will ask questions.
Please hold your questions. Hold your questions, okay? Now, I lived on this farm in this like near this like rural village, and the problem is it was a goat farm, and so every now and again you would wake up and then you would open the window and look directly into the eyes of a goat. Now, I don't know if you've ever looked directly into the eyes of a goat when you weren't expecting it, but that is terrifying.
Well, first of all, goats they have a square pupil.
Yes, they have like, it's the eyes of Satan. You're looking into the eyes of Satan.
Animals in general, just don't trust them.
No, goat's eyes are the scariest things you could see if you don't have any preparation. I mean, other than a penis, that's a whole other story. But
all right,
looking directly into the eyes of a goat.
So why were you on a farm in the Eastern Cape for a whole year? What happened? Were you abducted?
No, I was after film school. I was at film school. After film school, my first job in film was shooting a documentary series over the course of a year about a village called Dukini in the Eastern Cape. And the closest place to Dukini was Kokstad. But the closest place between Kokstad, which was the only like town that was nearby, and this village was this farm where we stayed. Myself and my co-filmmaker, Sharice McGill. The two of us, white girls, lived on this farm, went into the village every day. And that's what we did for the better part of a year.
It's unbelievable. I'm sure you loved living among the goats and the farm.
She was a farm girl, so she dealt with it better than I did. For me, there was some adjusting.
Oh, where's that picture of Jane with the seawater?
I'm trying to get it on here. Let me just WhatsApp it to you because it's not like airdropping onto the.
Jane was thrilled with this thing. So whatever.
She was too thrilled, in my opinion.
I was not to judge. If that's what she wanted, at least she had a very clear idea of what she wanted from Mexico when we came back. So we brought her what she wanted.
And you should ask her. You should ask her why she wanted it.
She wasn't very clear about that.
Yes, at all. She's just like, nah, water, sea, why?
I think she may be doing freaky things. That's what I'm guessing.
Nah, like why, guys? Like, I don't understand. Why would you do that to yourself? It's just something I don't understand. And the mere fact that I don't understand it and I see so many people do it is what gets me a bit riled up to be like, right, there's other things you could have asked for from Mexico. Like, you asked for water. Like,
I agree.
water.
No,
Listen,
no.
Nah.
there's one. I've got one good news story for you for this morning, which I think it's quite a big deal. Eskom has finally awarded a private electricity trading license. Sorry, not Eskom, but NERSA, the National Energy Regulator, for the first time in over 12 years, as the country looks to move away from Eskom's power monopoly. This is really worth celebrating, and I think there are so many news outlets that are always looking at bad news every day. So this is one we can be excited about.
That's great.
NERSA's awarding of this license represents a critical step forward in the Department of Energy's roadmap, which plans the unbundling of Eskom's generation, transmission, and distribution business units to enable transition from a single buyer model to a more competitive domestic open market model. So this will make it possible for people to do more solar, more wind, more water powered, more battery powered, and other kinds of electricity generation. And I really hope that it takes off, because we cannot, if this country is going to move forward, we can't be reliant on Eskom. So I'm happy about that. I'm really genuinely pleased to give you that news this morning. Nice, huh?
That's exciting. That's exciting. My dad always used to do this thing where you would look outside, you'd look at the sun, and he'd go, "Gilli, look at it. It's there the whole time, and we're not using it." Drove him mad. He's like, "We live in Africa. We've got the sun all day long, and no one's using it."
That's right.
Your dad was wise. He was a wise man.
No. All right, listen, we're going to check in with Brett Hope-Robertson quickly and find out what's going on in the world of cryptocurrencies. Revix.com, REVIX. We check in with them every week to just see what's going on in the world of cryptocurrencies. And there is a lot to get into this week. We're going to talk to Brett Hope-Robertson, who's the head of investment there, to tell us a little bit about what's going on this week. We're seeing a recovery. I mean, $47,242 for a Bitcoin. This is good news, Brett. This is very good news. I'm glad to have you on a day where we don't have to be talking about negative stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say, Gareth, I think this is the first time I've been on and not been a bearer of bad news.
Nice.
It's normally others, but yeah, it's been a really nice little run up that we've seen lately. I mean, we've seen it in traditional markets too, but I mean, as you said, Bitcoin's up. It's about 27% up, I think, in the last 2 weeks. And I think there's kind of like two factors kind of driving this. I mean, there's been a lot of good news coming out lately. I think there's this belief that this Russia-Ukraine might be coming to a bit of a close. And so risk-on assets are positive reacting to this belief. Whether that is going to come to fruition is a different story.
Mm-hmm.
But in the crypto market specifically, we've kind of seen, there's a guy called Do Kwon. I mean, outside of crypto, a lot of people won't know who he is, but he's the founder of Terra. That's that crypto that I spoke to you guys about last time I was on and tried to explain the mechanics, and I won't go through that again, but basically their Terra team they're buying up Bitcoin every day because they are trying to fill up their treasury for their own stablecoin creation, and they've currently bought about.
You said his name is what? Obi-Wan? What is it?
Do Kwon, very close, same kind of concept really, and the reaction he's having on the market is much like what Obi-Wan Kenobi probably would have had on it as well.
All right.
But they're looking to buy over 10 billion in Bitcoin, right? So that's kind of driving up the price. And we're seeing a lot more other positive stories kind of coming out. And then the other part of it is we got this kind of structural push in the market at the moment, something called a short squeeze, which I won't get into too technically, but this basically happens when a lot of people are bearish on a market and they're betting that the price of this market goes down, and guess what? They're wrong. And they need to get out of these positions, and these positions are structured in such a way that you actually have to buy back the asset to get out of the position. So think about it. If you're betting the price of Bitcoin goes down and it goes up and you want to get out of it, you have to go buy Bitcoin to get out of this position, which causes the price of Bitcoin to go up even more. And then more people that are short need to buy and to get out. And it causes this circular reference that you get the squeeze in price. And that's kind of what we've seen happen. So it's these two kind of factors.
Short people are always causing shit.
Yeah, short people are the biggest problem in the world. But just for a second, because I'm thrilled to see this, this improvement in the Bitcoin price, because God alone knows we've had a couple of really bad upsets recently. Do you think we've reached the top, and again, this is not financial advice, or do you think that there are still signs that it could even go up a bit higher?
So I think there is a structural kind of change here. I think we are starting to see a more of a uptrend being formed. That's not to say it's going to go up in a straight line, right? I think, as long as Bitcoin holds the 40 to 44 level in dollars, that's a positive structure that'll keep it probably going up to its 54 as its next kind of level.
All right, tell us about DeFi, DEFI. What is that all about?
Yeah, so DeFi is a sector in crypto that's kind of outperforming. It stands for decentralized finance, which basically is taking the financial world and making it on a blockchain, right? Making it a financial system where there's no banks, no middlemen, and it's kind of out of the reach of ownership or, governmental reach. And I think this asset class has started to really outperform in crypto lately. And I think the one thing is, DeFi has actually been hit really hard over the last year. It's about down 50%, but the value being accruing to it is up over 250% over the same time. So it's kind of attractive on a trade basis. But the most important part is that, this is the one area that crypto is really trying to solve, right? A decentralized financial system. And if there's one thing the last few months have kind of shown us, is that governments will kind of take away your financial liberties whenever they want to. We're kind of living in this era of weaponized finance. I mean, you've seen the Canadian protesters' bank accounts get shoved. You've seen Russia-Ukraine war, where multiple parties are using sanctions to fight. You've seen US and EU do sanctions. You've seen Russia kind of demanding oil imports to be paid in rubles now, just to try to get off the dollar standard.
Imagine Cyril has an argument with the king of Lesotho, and everybody in Lesotho suddenly sees their hard-earned savings going to nothing because we decide to sanction Lesotho, and they're completely within our borders. I mean, that would be an example of what, in the crazy world where politicians get to make these decisions, what could happen. You're allowing people who win popularity contests to decide whether the value of money that you've made your whole life is still what it should be, or whether it should go down.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, look at actually what's happened over the last. It's actually happening. It's playing out in front of your eyes, right? People in Canada, people in Russia. I mean, the Russian ruble's got absolutely smoked, and all the money that they've made their whole life has gone basically to zero because maybe a leader they didn't even vote in the first place has decided to do certain actions, right? And it's this massive game of cat and mouse between countries, and the main tool isn't guns anymore; it's money. And this is kind of what crypto stands for, right? It kind of stands for the exact opposite of what's happening.
Yeah, listen,
I think that's kind of playing.
To me, this is still the best argument in favor of cryptocurrency. But can I ask you guys, because you're always there are two questions here. The first of all, some people in the audience are wondering whether Sean Sanders has been kidnapped because we haven't seen him in so long. So we need to tell your boss we need to get him back on the show at some point. The second question is, you're always coming up with really interesting promotions, and every week based on what's going on in the world of cryptocurrency or in the world, full stop. You always got interesting promotions on it. We got something on this week?
Yeah, we do. To answer your first question, though, he did ask me if you wanted to come on this week, and I said no. I'd like to actually be on when there's positive news coming out for the first time in a while.
All right, that's fair enough.
And then on the promo side, Revix have just released their DeFi bundle last week, which holds the top 10 DeFi assets and rebalances monthly. And we have fee free on that bundle. So all purchases of that bundle with fiat currencies is fee free till the 7th of April.
Fantastic. There's another good reason to get on board. Go to revix.com, everybody, and find it online. Start getting yourself away from these currencies that are being controlled by governments. Makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, we can't completely wean ourselves off of it. There's still going to be systems that for a very long time will depend on these. But you may as well keep some of your money safe, or at least out of the hands of the politicians. Do it by getting involved. You can do that now. $500. You can do it with less than that if that's what you've got. You can do it with more than that if that's what you've got. But go to revix.com, and if you haven't already opened up your own account there, then go and do it ASAP. Thanks, Brett. Nice to see you, dude.
Cool, man. Cheers, guys.
Cool. Well, we'll get Sean on eventually. I hope so. You better get him.
I'll get him on next week.
All right, cool. Good stuff, man. Thank you. All right. We've got Gilli Apter with us this morning. We've got Simphiwe Tatwa. You got me, you, and we've got everybody else. We've got some really cool people joining us just after 7 as well. A guy called Robby Kojetin who has climbed Mount Everest, and he's done all of this in a wheelchair. I mean, the guy is absolutely amazing. At one stage, anyway, he was confined to a wheelchair for almost a year. And we interviewed him, I think it was about 4.5, maybe 5 years ago. And he'd already done these incredible things. I mean, he is such an inspiring dude. And I've got to get him to tell the story again for those who haven't heard it, how he got from a wheelchair up to the top of Mount Everest. It's you think you've got a tough day ahead of you? Just imagine that was what you had to deal with. So he will be joining us just after 7:30 this morning. Wow.
I mean, I struggle to get myself out of this bed, and I'm able-bodied.
Yes, exactly. So here, by the way, is a picture of Jane with her seawater. Very excited. There she is. There's a bit of sand in there. It is actually you can see. But there's it's all she wanted. That's all she wanted. So some people, we talk about this on Collectomania. Some people like collecting things that are very valuable. Some people collect nonsense. Some people just want a bit of seawater from somewhere exotic.
What are you going to do? I'm becoming less collecty as I get older, The other day I got birthday cards, and I just thought to myself, how long am I going to have to pretend to hold on to these before it's okay for me to throw them out? You know what I mean? To myself, I'm pretending to myself, because eventually I'm going to throw them away. I don't know when it becomes okay to then be like, you know what, I don't need this.
You have to wait a few years. That's the norm, right? You collect and you put them in a box, and you wait 5, 6 years, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not that person anymore. Bye.
Yeah,
yes, but the problem is I have those ones from close friends, and they have meaningful things written in them, and I just think, what if I really read this? If I really read this,
it says the same thing. Happy birthday.
I reckon one day when you're old, you'll want to go through all of this stuff. Maybe you'll be sitting around and you've got all the time on your hands, and all your friends are already dead or something, and you'll pull that box out, and you'll want to read those things. I'm not a hoarder, but I do keep that kind of thing, and especially if there is something written in there from someone who's a really good friend or someone you really loved at one point or whatever. It's quite cool to look back on that. I mean, I remember when I was at primary school, I had this girlfriend at primary school, and we actually used to send each other letters, because this was before emails and WhatsApp.
Yes.
But I mean, I kind of wish, because I know they'd be very embarrassing to read now, but I just wish I could have kept some of those, because I do think they'd be very funny too. And you forget what you were like when you were a kid. And I maybe it'll take you back to that. I just think there's some stuff worth holding on to.
Nina, speaking of Nina, she recently found a letter that she had written to a school boyfriend. And it has you should get her back on the show and ask her to read you that letter. It's one of the funniest things I have ever heard in my life. And it's all there with you should wait until you see that. It's very you don't know what you've lost. It was one of those those subbing tweets before subbing. Oh yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. You must get her to read it to you. It's unbelievable. She writes him the letter. I don't know why she keeps the letter. She doesn't send it, but it's all of her feelings about him having left her for the other girl, and it's got so much drama and suspense, and there's a twist. Unbelievable.
Oh wow! And then I thought you were gonna be she wrote this beautiful love letter, and I'm so in love with you. I'm so happy. Love lives here. Oh my word! And she's just cussing the kid out.
Oh, it's crazy. It's got mad stuff in there. It's wait until when you look back someday. It's like that.
Oh,
so she was basically saying, I'm the one that got away. You're missing out.
Yes.
She basically was just
she was asking to read you that letter. One of the funniest things I've ever heard. Crying. I was crying tears reading it.
Ethan wants to know, Gilli, when are you doing a show in Cape Town?
I'm actually flying to Cape Town in about a few hours to go do a show, but it's a corporate function. And I tried to come to Cape Town to do a few shows a couple of weeks ago, but Kalula said no.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So actually, the answer to that is not for a while because I'm going to London on Sunday, and that is where I'm going to be doing some shows next.
Oh, nice. You've been traveling quite a bit, hey?
Yes. I was traveling last year. I was on tour July, August, before I came back to SA to shoot this Netflix thing. And you know what? I just realized I have to get back out into the world.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Snai says, "Oh yeah, Gilli is on. Morning, guys. I'm going to the office for the first time in 2 years today. I feel like I'm going on a school
Wow.
trip."
Okay.
Wow, that's like the first day at school after like the holidays. But
Yeah.
like the
Did you
holidays
make
were not
lunch?
fun.
Did you
2
make?
years. 2 years. And
Dude.
Wow.
Uncle Potse is the same. Me too.
Wow.
Going back to the office for the first time in 2 years. Sure.
What do you guys work? Like that must be so nice. Like, wait, what? But like, did
Mm.
you prep? Did you get your outfit ready? You know, did you have everything packed out the night before? You know, did you wake up super early? Like, I want to hear it all. Like, and what's for lunch? Or are you gonna be balling and buying lunch and takeaways? Like,
I mean, I never went to the office, so I can't relate at all, but sounds hectic.
Well, Snai says, "I'm dreading the traffic, but generally excited to go to the office and meet my colleagues again. I changed roles in lockdown, so I haven't met some of them." Yeah, you see, there's something about that in-person stuff that I think people have really been craving the last couple of years. And I just can't believe that some people haven't been back to the office for 2 whole years. That's
I mean, I'll tell you this.
unbelievable.
I went to a meeting recently with a colleague of mine, a co-writer. We were working on a TV show that we want to pitch, and we went to see a production company, and the two of us went in to see a producer that we know, and she was there with her team, and we had this amazing meeting. It was quick. It was like half an hour. We had this amazing meeting, and we walked away, and as we walked out, we both looked at each other at the same time, and we were like, there is nothing like, there is just no replacement for like that in-person meeting.
No, it's very
Unfortunately,
special.
it just is the way that you look at each other, the way you respond, the way you experience one another is just different.
yes. But
Dogozo
also people
says,
don't have like online etiquettes. They'll have their webcam off and then
yeah,
you know they're not talking to you and they're not responding. So it's just like, this is not
no,
it.
there's nothing can replace that real human interaction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Dogozo says, though, never going back to the office. I can't say that I miss the office. No, you see, again, you got people who are only too happy to not have to go in. I've had my staff back, says Carl, in the office since August 2020. That was when we were first allowed back. Fuck COVID and its mom. Okay, well, there we go.
Okay.
Sure.
Good for you.
All right. Well, the
Good for you,
fun
Carl.
thing for some people, like for Snai, is that she bought herself a new dress and new high heels. She's got her nails and her hair done,
yes.
and she is ready to go into the office.
See,
and
that's great.
look
Love that.
like a bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proper
I do
first
miss
day
Positive
back.
vibes.
I kind of miss dressing up a little bit because, not necessarily for the office day-to-day stuff, but those meetings where you would actually make an effort. Yeah. I don't know we do that much anymore. It feels quite cool when you do that. Here's an amazing story. We've had Marco on the show before. Marco, who was this fitness guy. He was this incredible specimen of just the strongest, fittest kind of human. And then he was in an accident and he had to relearn everything. He basically was in a wheelchair.
Wow.
And he says here, yesterday I took a walk without, I think he means without assistance for the first time in over a year.
Wow.
That's phenomenal.
Incredible.
Wow.
I'm glad you're sharing that with us. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
That's
really
some really good
Well done,
news.
Marco.
Like, wow.
That
Okay.
is good. Yeah. Quentin says the biggest problem with the office is that it's full of humans. All right. Well, there we go.
You clearly don't like humans. You're not a fan. It's okay.
Bitleng says, I can't imagine life without the office. Been going there, Lika, that hard lockdown when I was the only one in there. Yeah, listen, some people have not stopped. So that's why I was surprised that Snai is only going back now after 2 years. And there are other people who are also only going back now for the first time in 2 years. Just shows you everybody's lives are kind of gone this way. And, if you're in that group that just never really stopped going to the office, like you, Simphiwe, you didn't really, we maybe did a month or two where you weren't in the office.
Yeah, but every day I'm here, like, bright and
I know.
early, 6 o'clock, with a
Yeah.
smile. And I'm just like, the only thing I do want back is those petrol prices of lockdown. If we could go back there, like
God.
those,
Uh,
man,
Well,
my life
I have
would
a
be
solution.
And if you remember, one of the great things for me about lockdown was that I spent so little money on petrol because you couldn't go anywhere. There's nowhere to go.
Exactly. I do have a solution for you, though, Simphiwe. We've got a new billionaire in South Africa, someone called Xolani Ndlovu, who he's just become our newest billionaire. The
Tell
tech
us more.
market's obviously growing, and so does the industry's 3 comma club. That's what they call the billionaires now, 3 commas, right? 000, comma,
got it.
000, comma, 000,
Okay.
comma. In 2021, despite a record high 49.2 billion barrier for entry into the list, that's in rands, tech billionaires, 11 of them, made the Forbes 400 for the first time. And one of these people is somebody called Xolani Ndlovu. The group's composition includes investors, builders, founders of fintech and blockchain, crypto-related firms, etc. He is a 36-year-old South African billionaire entrepreneur and the founder of Dafri Group PLC. Dafri Group PLC, a public company with a portfolio of interest across 16 plus subsidiaries ranging from technology to banking to hospitality, real estate, blockchain, among others. He was born in Limpopo, and he's got a really good story. They say it could make a blockbuster. He has propelled his personal fortune to 6 billion rand in the last couple of years, which is unbelievable. So how's that?
Okay. I do have 1 or 2 questions. First one, very important. Is he single? Okay. That's a very important question. And second one, where does he stay? I just, might want to go around that neighborhood and maybe bump into
You
him.
don't want to go to Limpopo.
No,
I don't think he's staying in Limpopo though.
I don't think you want to go to Limpopo, but I will show
Limpopo
you.
will surprise you. Eh? They're full of surprises.
Jane is from Limpopo. Need I say more?
Well, there you go.
But this guy, I mean, he sounds like he's done really well. They don't say anything, unfortunately, Simphiwe, about a current relationship, so you'll have to figure that out yourself. But if you really want something, you'll learn to work for it. Here he is. He's not much of a social media guy. He doesn't like too much of the attention, like so many of these guys do. That's what he looks like. And he built his mom a mansion in Limpopo. So we do know where you could live if he builds you a house. Here we go. There's the house that he's built his mom.
That's a gorgeous house, though.
Well, you can only see it past the tree there, but I mean, it doesn't look like
Looks like something.
doesn't look like much in the neighborhood though. But that's definitely the biggest house in that neighborhood. That's for sure. Anyway,
Well, all we need to know is that he built his mother a house.
isn't that
I
nice?
think that's the takeaway.
That's a nice thing.
Yes, so he's a family man. Okay,
Yeah.
I just
Yes.
pray and hope he's single. He's like only 9 years older than me. So
Takes care
We'll
of his
see
mother. I
if
think
we
it's a good
can-
start. I think it's a good start.
I'll tell you what,
Yeah,
you will not think about the petrol price again if you end up being Mrs. Ndlovu there.
you see what I mean? You see, I need to think about my future, guys. I need to start,
Just listen. You've got to make sure you assess this person correctly on your first date, okay? Because money can be very confusing. It can be very bamboozling, okay? You saw what happened to those people on the Tinder Swindler. They were so obsessed with this guy who was so rich that they didn't even realize that he was stealing money from them. Anything can happen, okay, is what I'm saying. Just don't lend him any money. That's very important.
Absolutely.
That's
Do
rule
not
number
lend him any
1.
money.
Yes.
Rule
I
number
also
1.
watched Inventing Anna. So I was,
Have you
I
watched
kind of, yes, I did.
Very
And I
good.
was like,
Yeah.
that
Hold that thought.
girl.
I want to talk about that because I have still not seen it, but it's on my playlist of stuff I still have to watch. So we'll get a little update on that from Simphiwe. We've also got Gilli for another half hour with us, and then we'll be joined by an incredible guy who's got an amazing story of how he went from wheelchair to summiting Everest. Very inspirational dude, and all of that is on the way. Stick around, cliffcentral.com. It is a Wednesday morning.
Up next in the Auto Trader podcast.
Do you think consumers are being shortchanged? Have you experienced some sort of, over the years, a change in tire prices?
I would say no, and the reason I say that is everybody has to replace tires during the life of the ownership of their car at some point.
Yeah.
But if you take on average, if you buy a car with new tires on it, you keep a car for maybe 5 years. Okay, so you're really only seeing the price every 5 years.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Do you want to replace your glass half empty mentality with a glass half full mindset? I'm Barrett Edelstein and I present the Optimal Optimism podcast here on cliffcentral.com. Be empowered with practical tools around body, mind, food, exercise, and more to create a positive and abundant life. The Optimal Optimism podcast is made active by Virgin Active.
Righty, let's get cracking. We got a lot to do this morning. It is Wednesday, the 30th of March. Is this the last day of March? I have to check quickly. I
No,
can remember.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Still got tomorrow.
No, it's
Still
not.
got tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, 1st of April's Friday, so just be careful of those pesky April Fool's jokes, which are no longer funny.
People still
So-
do that. Like
Yeah,
they
people still
still.
do that. For some people, that is the height of great comedy. Really, some people think it's the funniest thing ever. Ha ha ha! April Fools! Ha ha! Yeah, there are a coterie of people who are that way. But what
I
can you
got
do?
my April Fool's joke early this year. On the 21st of March, they told me that I turned 40. Lol, guys. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Oh man.
Did you have a bit of a crisis around turning 40, or did you not?
They didn't get me.
Oh.
I will say that I had some friends who I feel like they had more of a crisis about it than me. Like
Yeah.
my friend Tats, who called me like the next day, and he was like, "How are you feeling?" And he's a few years younger than me, and I feel like he's the one panicking about. You see, the thing is that's what your late 30s are actually for. They're there to help you come to terms with the fact that you're going to be 40.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't get cut up about these things. It's really a number, and I don't think it makes any difference. I know
No, you
people who are a disaster at 20, 30, and 40, and maybe they only become their best at 50. And then there are people who go the opposite way. You know, they get worse and worse as they get older.
Ooh.
Oh, there
Okay.
goes Gilli. I think her connection just decided she's too old to be with us.
Does
Oh, no, wait, there
Oh.
she's back. She's back. Let's just see
that
if
was
we can get-
fast, girl. You're just like
Other thing is absolutely. And I'll
What?
say, you know what I realized?
Huh? No, wait. I'm gonna
No.
kick her out. We just start again with Gilli.
The age thing was just like, you're not gonna talk ill about me. It
Right.
was like, no, we're not
Absolutely.
doing that today. Not at all.
So this woman who swindled a guy out of his pension. We talk about the Tinder swindler just now. This is here in South Africa. This woman has been
wrong
sentenced.
profession.
She's been sentenced to 30 years in jail for swindling this dude out of his pension with what she called a magic box. We've got to get into this, right? This is way too interesting to just.
Wait,
Oh, okay.
what magic box?
Right.
What is going on? How does she do it? Like, what?
This is very interesting. Are you ready for some fun? First of all, let's just see if we can get Gilli back on the screen here while we're doing this. While we're trying to get her on, let me just tell you the story in the meantime. So she's 30 years old. She's a Ugandan traditional healer, and she's just been given a 30-year prison term for defrauding a guy who was just a miner. He worked in the mines for 955,300 Rand in pension money. She took it all from him because she told him it would multiply into millions. So she appeared in court on Monday on all of these charges. This is what she did. She said she said she met this guy. He's from Mozambique originally. He's 54 years old. She's 30. He was living in Welkom. He met this young woman, fell in love. The young lady introduced the mine employee to her sister, who apparently was a traditional healer. They went to this traditional healer's house because the young lady said that she wanted to show the mine employee something at Tana Street in Welkom. When they arrived at the house, the man was told to buy a miracle box, which was worth 2,000 Rand from the traditional healer. 2 days later, guy returned, gave the money that she'd requested, and then she demonstrated how this miracle box worked. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
So Gilli, I'm just telling Simphiwe and everybody else about this this girl. You mentioned the Tinder swindler.
Something about somebody's box.
Yeah, she ripped him off. So according to the story, this is how the magic box worked. The man puts a coin inside the box, then he closes it. Then she prays over the box, and when he opens it, there's a huge sum of money inside, which the man was told belonged to him. She then encouraged him to quit his job so he could make more money from the miracle box. The man did not hesitate and retired in August of 2020. In October of that year, she said the man received his Provident Fund money worth 689,000 Rand, which he also gave to her to put in the miracle box. On the 4th of November, just a month later, another investment of 12,000 Rand went in. The man was then told to return to his original home in Mozambique and collect soil from his yard, which he would then mix with the money to make the ancestors multiply it into millions. After a few days, he got back from home and he attempted to contact the girl. And guess what? She was nowhere to be found, along with all of his pension money. But they managed to catch her, and now she's been sentenced to 30 years of imprisonment. Her sister, who is the man's girlfriend, is still at large. How's that, though? The magic box.
That is
Wow.
wild.
Yeah.
Like,
now,
I
want to feel.
Very
I want to
creative.
feel I want to
No.
feel sorry for this guy, but when I heard magic box, I thought it was just good old prostitution. But it turns out that this woman had a whole thing going on with I want to know what the box looked like. I want to know because it must have been.
Everyone wants to know what the box looks like, Gareth.
I know, but
Everyone
it could have
wants to
been
know what the
okay.
box
Even
looks
if you're
like.
a guy from Mozambique and maybe you're not used to much, maybe you've been mining and you've been underground and your eyes are damaged or whatever. But if it's just a shoebox that you're putting money in and it's multiplying, that should send the alarm bells ringing. And then you put 600 and something thousand of a pension money in. This is crazy.
it is. I'm still trying to understand. So when that first time he went, right, and she multiplied it, how much did it grow by? Was she like, no, if you put in 2 Rand, it will grow by 4. So if you put in 1,000, you'll get 10,000. Because the fact that you trusted her with your pension money, and you're like, sure, I'm going to be a millionaire by
This is
must
very
mix it
creative
with
swindling,
soil.
though. You have to hand it to her.
It's clever.
Soil,
This
ancestors.
just shows you, if you're an unscrupulous person, you can very easily bullshit other people and get their money. It's really not that hard.
You can, I once did this campaign for this company that does it's like an NGO that does messaging to help people protect people from scams, basically, especially online scams. And one of the biggest scams that happens is older people getting scammed out of their pension money by on dating apps.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you can't believe how easily they do it.
Well, Vyasan says his son had a toy where you could put a 5-cent coin in, and when you open it, it reveals a 50-cent coin. Show someone who has little contact with the outside world, and they will be amazed. Now, I mean, this is a kid's toy, so maybe she had one of those. Maybe that's what she was using. Some kid's toy. It could swap money and drop it into a drawer, open up something in the back. Yeah, you can build technology around this stuff. And look, these magicians, these people who they do these magic tricks and shows and things. I'm sure you've seen enough of them. I've seen them. I always get irritated because I want to know how they do it. It's kind of easy to pull the wool over some people's eyes. And I'm struggling to decide whether I should blame this poor Mozambican miner or whether I should blame the lady with her box entirely, because I think there's a bit of blame to be given on both sides, right? Gullibility got a price.
Yes, but
and greed.
If we're gonna talk about blame, the blame always sits first squarely with a person trying to deceive somebody else.
Right.
Then you decide how much you pity the person who is the victim. That's a different story. But,
That's true. I mean, listen, is this any different before everybody starts pointing fingers at this guy's so dumb. How did he fall for this? You enter the lotto, don't you? I've entered the lotto. Isn't that the same thing? You're like, I'll put in 5 rand of my hard-earned money or 20 rand or whatever it costs now, and then I'll win the million. And guess what? You never win the million, do you?
Wait, Gareth. But but there have been people that have won. That's like the fact that somebody has won it, it means that there's some sort of legitimacy behind it. Whereas this person is just like magic box. They're just taking your money.
But Simphiwe, the first time his money did multiply. Don't forget. Just like the lotto gets won by somebody.
I don't know, hey? I'm judging both of them. I'm judging both, but I'm judging more that man who pension. Like, I can understand maybe 1,000 rand, 2,000. Your entire pension, mate.
Shame.
Hey, that's
listen.
hectic.
Nina Hasty once believed the guy who told her that his dad owned Manchester United. So anything is possible. Okay.
Guys,
I feel like
wait.
You've come on here and you've said some terrible things about Nina. We need to give her a right to reply.
No, I haven't. I didn't say anything she wouldn't have said about herself. If you want to hear the full story, you should watch. Actually, if you want to hear the full story of this, you should watch Nina Set on Only Jokes Allowed on Netflix, and then you'll hear more about this because it's all there.
She fell for a guy who told her his dad owned Man United.
I'm in the wrong profession. I'm after Twitter, Tinder Swindler, now inventing Anna, now this magic box. Now Nina, I'm in the wrong profession, guys. I'm sorry. Let me go out there and make some millions by scamming people because what?
Clearly.
No, listen to me. You need to go to Mexico and start bringing back big bottles of sand and seawater and like selling them to people and telling them that they have
and I must pray over it, right?
Etc. Etc.
That's the trick.
Yeah.
Yes.
I must come back, pray, and be like, it's gonna cleanse you. Give me 1,000 rand, and you'll get 50,000 rand back. Maybe I should go into that business. I think I'm in the wrong profession.
And you must do it,
I'm playing
You
around.
must do it to white people specifically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Anyone
guys.
who's willing to fall for it, you must just be wherever the market is, go and exploit that market.
Yeah.
All right. So you watched Inventing Anna. What I know about this, and you can fill in the gaps for me, is that there was this woman, and it's a true story. This woman in New York who she managed to get her way to worm her way into high society in New York. So she was dealing with all these, high-powered bankers and hedge fund managers and people who had access to lots and lots of money. And she convinced them that she was a really amazing, like European princess or something, that she had all these great ideas, that she was connected to everybody, and that she was going to start this club, which they all needed to invest in. And all of these supposedly brilliant people fell for her hook, line, and sinker. And she swindled them all out of millions of dollars. But they did eventually catch her and lock her up. Is that the story?
Yes, so the only difference is that she didn't get the millions from the banks because she did apply. But that process in itself, where people need to check if you are who you really say you are, and the due diligence was basically not done because they took her at her word. And what was interesting to see with inventing Anna was the fact that she started off like showing off, like, hey, at the hotel or something, should like give the people like a tip, like $100 tip, and then buy them whatever they want, and then be like, oh, let's go to this or let's go to that for like a good 3-6 weeks, whatever the case may be. And then like jiggy, there's no money. And because you've seen her spend so much on you, you kind of like, oh, well, friend, I got this, and now here I am, Simphiwe, spending 10,000 Rand on a dinner on a Wednesday afternoon that I know I don't have, number one. And number two, I can't afford this kind of lifestyle. But because she was so generous in the beginning, they were like, oh my gosh, she really is who she says she is. And also the thing is, she believed it. Like, she believed her own lies. And I believe that she was actually this child that comes from millions, and she's a trust fund baby, and she deserves to be here. And I don't know how she got the money, but she managed to pay like the hotels like months later. And just even that scam on its own, you were saying when you're into Mexico, they take your credit card, right? Like the fact that her friend, when they went to this trip, gave her work credit card in order to secure this whole trip was bollocks. And then now she spent like, I don't know, like 60K on a work credit card, and now this girl's like, yeah, I'll pay you back whenever, and she didn't really pay her back. It was insane, guys. Like,
one thing I think that they tapped into something like really interesting in that show, and in the telling of the story, even though I don't think we needed 10 episodes about that thing. I think it could have been done in 2 hours, quick in and out, But something that they managed to tap into with that show is we've all had that feeling where we are having to sort of fake it at a level that's a little bit out of our reach. Right. You know what I mean? Like, or even a lot out of our reach, depending. But we've all had that feeling where we're sitting in an environment with people, or in an environment where we feel like we can sort of play the game of what's happening here, but there are a lot of gaps in our knowledge, and we don't have what the other people have. And then it's a matter of time. If it's a short while, if it's a dinner, if you're in a social situation, or you're at a party, or let's say, but if you extend that time, and suddenly you're in a city where you feel like you don't belong and you have to fit in, what are the things you're going to do to make sure you stay there? And I think that's the difference. The difference is like, one person will start crossing a line and doing things to stay in that world. And if you convince people right at the outset that you are something, it's amazing how long people will continue to believe you are that thing. We do it in relationships all the time. You meet somebody,
Absolutely.
The beginning of your relationship is amazing. You think this is how it has to be. Then the person isn't necessarily faking it. Maybe they change their mind, but you continue to believe in the thing that you first saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm also interested in what Simphiwe is saying about how she started to believe her own lies.
Yes, she really believes that, I'm this German like trust fund baby, and yes, like my dad's gonna get me out of this situation. Yes, I have the millions. Yes, like she was starting to believe her own lies and saying, this is the world that I belong, and I'm Anna, like put some respect on it. And it's like, no, girl, you have no money. You
see,
girl, you
I
lie.
really relate to that mentality, because as you know, I identify as rich, and so I've always understood that feeling that is where you're meant to be. You know what I mean? So I relate to her in a lot of ways. I just don't have that level of, I don't know what you call that,
self-deception. But it is amazing
self-deception.
But people start to believe their own story after a while. We've seen this countless times in history, and even in the way that people behave in relationships. They start to have in their own head like a completely fake, false way of looking at the world, which has no bearing on reality. And they start to buy it hook, line, and sinker, to the point where they change their name, or they start to live a double life. You know, you get these people these guys usually who have like two families. They've got the one wife somewhere, they've got another wife somewhere else, and the two never meet, and they're able to live these completely exclusive and different lives. And somehow they in their heads.
Michelle Vaughan has helped us. Thank you, Michelle. It's called a personality disorder, is what Michelle has said.
Oh, okay.
We're like, what is it? What is this thing that allows people? How do they do? Yes, it's a personality disorder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most disappointing thing about Anna is that she's not physically attractive, says Carl. All right.
Yeah, she's just an average girl.
Carl, you are just disappointing in general.
Anna is an analogy of how all men live their lives, says Robin. Well, there's a lot of anger and resentment going on there, Robin, but don't say I didn't pick up on it. Ooh,
Okay.
Okay. Tell us, Robin. Tell us. Tell us.
No, rather don't. I'm not sure we want to know. Gary says, I had a friend who had a colleague that practiced law for 15 years plus with nothing more than a matric. And you've heard those stories about like these guys who've pretended to be airplane pilots. They have no qualification. They've never actually qualified as a pilot, and they've been flying planes in major airlines, and no one's ever asked them a question.
But you see, I
thought it was
pilot one is the most scary one.
Business class. That's really impressive.
But I think, law and I don't know. I think I somewhat understand someone kind of faking it. It's the pilot that I don't, because I'm like, you need to get trained to
survive. Yes,
you need to understand how. Yes. So when did this training take place? Because that is my biggest concern. You have no qualification for this, yet you just are, taking it, and landing in different countries and different places. How, Sway? That for me is the biggest. Okay. Sure.
Well, clearly there are a bunch of people who are so good at bullshit that they are able to even bullshit themselves. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And you know what? Sometimes they win at life because nobody can really punch through their fake persona. And they do. You see them go all the way.
Yes, absolutely. But I always think like, I've managed to like get myself into situations and places that I don't necessarily belong in by having a little bit of guts. And so it's like, if you could just keep pushing that thing, how far does it go? Yeah. I mean, I used to just do it for clubs. I use my powers for evil, but some people, who knows where they could push that skill to. If I use my skill, if I could continue to develop my skill of getting in clubs, I used to call myself the club ninja, by the way, at some point, okay? Because I realized at some point that I had more experience getting into clubs than the young women who worked at the door had at keeping people like me out, you see? And so if you have enough, a certain amount of confidence, you can, and you just walk in and you pretend like you belong. Like I've done that in lots of different circumstances. I mean, I did that at the Cannes Film Festival. I was at some insane party. There was only like 10, 15 people, and it's me talking to like Edward Norton. I mean, I should not have been there. But I just went in and then pretended like I belonged. Now, what if I did that somewhere slightly more important, like, Parliament?
Okay.
Absolutely. And you know what? People do. They get away with it. So the lesson learned is if you can bullshit your way into something, go for it. Do it.
With confidence.
No.
The important trait is confidence.
What we're doing.
I can perform this operation. Just give me a scalpel and give me 15 minutes. That's what I'm going to do. Telling you.
Nurse.
Yes. I am now a doctor. I've just decided. All right. I love it. Gilli, thanks very much for being on the show with us this morning. I know you've got to run and
thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Always great to have you on. People love having you. And
this was so much fun. Thank you.
And we'll get Nina on so she can actually tell us some of those stories that you hinted at because they sound bloody great.
Please, the letter she sent to the childhood boyfriend and the Man United story. Just get her to speak for herself.
I will.
Both
will
have
do
to
that.
do with men. Got it.
Very
Yes.
good. All right. Thanks, Gilli.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers. There's Gilli Apter, and make sure that you catch up with all of her social media so that you can make sure you know where her next show is. And if you want to see her live, hopefully you can get to that too. She's all over the place. She's tearing it up at the moment, and you need to follow her on Instagram, on Twitter, on everywhere. Gilli Apter, Gilli Apter, and you can find her handles there. In fact, we'll put them up on the screen for you just now. I just want to quickly deal with something that's been coming up quite a lot on the show lately, and I just want to kind of address it because I don't want people to think we're avoiding it. But a lot of people are asking about Bulelo and, where is he? Now, as you know, he took off to the US last month, and a big thank you to one of our loyal listeners called Jamie, who actually helped Bulelo to get to Madison Square Garden, a whole bunch of NBA games, and some other things. Like Sia, Bulelo has decided to go it alone and dedicate his time to building his own platform and his own sports show. So Cliff Central Sport will continue, but the MKT show has left the building. So Bulelo's got other things going on, and I think it's only fair that we let you know about that, because otherwise you're going to sit here going, oh, when is he coming back on the show? Now, one of the things that I'm most proud about with the launch of Cliff Central is that it has provided a launch pad for so many other people. And Simphiwe, you know this too. You've been around. You've seen from the very beginning how many people we've helped, developed, pushed out there to do their own thing. And talent development is an important part of what we do at Cliff Central. So for those who have listened from the beginning, you'll know that we've had many interns come through our doors. They've gone on to other things, some solid experience gained while they've been with us at Cliff Central. Sia was our very first intern, and you remember he was fresh out of school. Bulelo also started as an intern just before lockdown, and look at how he's grown. And we're so proud of this. He wants to go out into the world and prove himself, and I think that's terrific. So as people like Sia and Bulelo and so many others move on, what it does is it creates an opportunity for other people to come in. And Simphiwe started as an intern. Look at her growing in leaps and bounds, right? And we have Homolemo, who's in the background a lot, but he's been on the show once or twice. Bakabantu, who was on yesterday, who started recently. And there are so many more people waiting in the wings. So a big thank you to Lebang and the team for, again, holding it down while I was away. We'll never stop giving new voices a chance here on this platform. That's part of what we do. And we've got to keep reinventing and changing things and creating space for new young people to explore their potential. So I want to say good luck to Mumbalubulaliyaho as he finds his way in the big wide world, and we will keep an eye. But until we see him again, that's the story. I don't want anybody to get confused about it, right?
Yes, and we do wish him all the best. It's quite exciting what he has lined up. So
Yeah.
I'm also excited to see what he's going to do in the future and just be himself, Mbulelo.
Yeah, and we'll be picking up the slack in terms of sport as well in the next while and launching our own stuff soon. So stick around for that too. Let's turn our attention now to somebody who I've already interviewed on the show before, and he's a really, really amazing human being. He's a published author. He's a business owner. He's visited 34 countries. He's climbed Mount Everest, and he's set foot on 6 out of 7 of the continents. He's swum in the Amazon. He's descended into the deepest mine on Earth. He's crossed the Ironman finish line and is still nowhere near done. This is just an incredible CV. I mean, if I'd done one of those things, that would be enough for me. I'd be like, okay, I'm finished now. I'll just sit here quietly. But at one stage, this guy was confined to a wheelchair for almost a year after a crippling climbing accident severely broke both of his ankles. Now, we've spoken to Robby on the show before in 2017. He also used to be a regular contributor to Brent Lindeque's show, which you may remember, The Good Stuff, talking about people that we've launched. And we had him on just before I left for Mexico. The bucket list guy was what we called him then. And in case you don't know his story, we've got him here today. He's Robby. Hey, how are you doing, dude?
Gareth, good to see you again. Yeah,
it's nice
good. Everything's good this side?
Good. Listen, dude, I just again, reading some of those things that you've done, it absolutely blows my mind that you've been able to achieve some of these things that you've been able to achieve in your life. And whether or not you had been in a wheelchair, I mean, these are things that even able-bodied people like me, who've never been in a wheelchair, we couldn't do one of these things: climb Mount Everest, swim in the Amazon. It's incredible. Tell us again the story of how you ended up in this wheelchair, and then how you decided this isn't going to stop me. I'm going to get to the top of Everest anyway, because I just love hearing this, and I can't hear it enough.
Oh wow! I'll just dig that memory up. Thanks, Gareth. No, I'm kidding. 2000, 2006, I was at a climbing gym, and I can't even tell people that I fell. I jumped and landed on the mat, and I wasn't roped in because it wasn't a high wall. I was maybe 2.5 meters off the ground, and I landed on my tippy toes in a split between two blocks of foam. And because the cover was torn, I went down toes first, and they went kind of backwards. And I tell people you can't touch your elbow no matter how hard you try, but with enough brute force and ignorance, you can get your heels to touch your calves, but not recommended, you know.
and then just a few months later, you're at the top of the world's highest mountain.
I wouldn't say just a few months. The accident happened in April 2006, and 2009 May I was on top of Everest. So 928 days. Yeah, if you need to be precise. Yeah.
Now,
but that's just one of the stories. Yeah.
Now you're not content with just that list of things I've just read off, because apparently somebody told me that you are going to go and climb K2, which is the second highest mountain in the world, but it's also the hardest mountain to climb in the world. Only 377 people have ever made it to the summit of K2. Is that right?
Yes.
It's damn near impossible. How far is it actually from Everest? Tell us a little bit.
Absolutely. And if you compare that to the 9,000 plus that have climbed Everest, it does give a bit of perspective.
So just tell us again that this mountain. Tell us the story of K2, because it's not as well known as Everest, obviously.
Sorry. Just to compare to, I mean, K2 is 240 meters shorter in altitude than Everest. It's in Pakistan, but it's still part of the Himalayas.
Robby, we just try and switch your video off so we can at least have clear audio here. Sorry.
Okay.
Just switch off your video. It usually, if there's a huge amount of congestion, it helps. Then we can just hear what you're saying rather than see it. Okay, so just say it again, like K2. We want to know the story of this mountain. All right, I'm going to kick him out and we'll try and get him back on. This is happening every goddamn day. Will all these people who are just messing around on the internet watching porn just stay off so that the rest of us can do our show?
Please, like, you know what, guys? Do it some other time, not so early in the morning. You'd think that this is the best time to talk to someone because everyone's sleeping or they're going to work. But no, it seems like everyone's on the internet doing what? We don't know.
No, I don't know. Anyway, he is going to climb K2, and they're going to do it in June of this year. And it's going to be the first South African ascent of that mountain. So let's try and get Robby back on here and see if he can tell us a little bit more. There we go. It looks better and sounds better. Go ahead, Robby.
There we go. How's that? So, I've got to love Vodacom. We woke up to no power this morning. So,
God.
I'm in love with all of the government-owned enterprises right now. So, from the top, K2, 240 meters lower than Everest. At one point in time, I saw some documentary from the 70s where they were talking about which one's higher, but Everest is by far, it stands head and shoulders above. But being further north in terms of latitude, it's still part of the Himalayas in Pakistan, but being further north and being more prominent, so standing head and shoulders above all of its neighbors, K2 is prone to worse weather, colder temperatures, more vicious winds. It's a little more fickle, a little more grumpy. A lot steeper as well. So everything is a technical climb from the moment we leave base camp. It's everything from 45 to 60 degrees of just straight up. Whereas Everest got the Western Coombe, which is a nice valley between Mutsi and Everest itself, a nice little passageway. There's flatter spots. But K2 is brutal from day one. And I think we're going to give it a bash. No South Africans to date have climbed it.
And you're going in June this year, so it's not even. This is not a long way away. This is now around the corner.
Yeah, no, it's not. June 14th, I'm on an airplane. So leaving for Islamabad, which I haven't been to either. So add that to the list of countries.
My God! All right, so I've always got to ask people like you who do this stuff. Why are you doing these insane things? Are you bored? Are you frustrated at home? Did lockdown hit you really hard and you felt some severe cabin fever? Like, what's the story here, Robby? Why are you running around the world doing these crazy things?
D, all of the above, Gareth.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
yes,
we can.
You can.
Yeah, I can't complain. I mean, fantastic. Yeah, so lockdown has contributed a lot to it. I mean, the last time I was on a mountain was in 2019. I went for a second attempt on the highest point in North America, got turned around. The weather wasn't doing what the forecast said it would, and it landed up costing 2 people their lives, luckily not from our team. But this idea of climbing bigger and higher mountains is always, it's kind of been, to coin the guy from 14 Peaks on Netflix, it's in the blood. Unfortunately, there's always a downside, I guess. It does have some repercussions. Yeah.
No, you're a nutcase. Most people are content with occasionally, going a bit fast on the highway, but that's not enough for you, huh?
No, I think that's also a problem for me as well. I mean, because of all my climbing expeditions, I don't own a car that can go very fast on the highway.
Just tell me,
I suppose it's priorities.
Just out of interest, I mean, there's so much that we could talk about in terms of mountain climbing. The other adventure stuff seems just as cool, but do your ankles still give you trouble?
They do on a daily basis. From the accident, there's a lot of scarring around the tendons.
Yeah.
So any activity, running, that sort of thing, I try to keep running to a minimum. That sort of thing causes inflammation, and I do feel it, but it's manageable. Lots of stretching, lots of focus on recovery, and they're a lot better than they have been in years. Yeah.
Well, I mean, hopefully you won't have any more injuries, because the kind of thing you're doing is also, this is asking for injuries some of the time. What kind of preparation do you have to do when you're about to go up on a mountain as high as K2? Because I've heard people have to do oxygen training, and you have to do breathing exercises, and you have to be fit as a fiddle. So how much prep goes into an operation like this?
A lot of prep. And my wife will tell you, every waking moment, the focus is on K2. And it's tough because you've got to fit in the day job, still got to pay the bills. Happiness won't buy you money, as Warren Buffett said. But yeah, we're training 6 times a week, if possible, wherever possible, doing everything from the Westcliff stairs to dragging a tire. I drag a tire around the neighborhood. I saw your eyes there, Simphiwe.
I'm shocked.
Whatever you got to do just to get leg strength, cardio in there, wrap your head around it, do as much research on it as you can, read past trip reports, find where others went wrong, and see if you can sort of circumnavigate that. And a big part of it is also mental prep, which is one of the reasons why we're doing it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. What does the mental prep involve?
So, I mean, for me, a lot of research, knowing what you're up against, know what you're getting into. Like I mentioned, seeing where others went wrong and trying to be best armed against that in your expedition. Suffering with anxiety and depression as well. That makes things quite difficult from time to time when you don't actually feel like getting out of bed for the next training day. And that's what we're doing. We've started #AskForHelp, because I just want people that are suffering with depression and anxiety to just reach out and get help, whether it's a professional psychologist, whether it's talking to a trusted friend, whatever it is, start a conversation. Because everyone looks at us, well, everyone on the team except me, they look at us and go, wow, look at you, you're 6 foot tall and bulletproof. I'm 5 foot nothing and a bit wobbly. It boils down to those sorts of things, and try and identify the weakness and work on it and make sure that it's not the weak part in the chain. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
When you talk about like depression and anxiety, a lot of people would think that the last thing you should do if you're feeling those things is to go out into the world and do something that's really difficult. But maybe there's a lesson in that. That's probably one of the best things you could do, is have a goal, have some kind of focus in your life. And you don't have to, we're not trying to compete with you, Robby, because many of us would die. But there are things that you can do in this world that will give you a huge amount of purpose and meaning. And ticking these goals off seems to me to be a really good way to get yourself out of a funk.
Definitely. I mean, one of the things that I was inspired by a video called 35, if you ever see it. It's about a climber who does 35 climbs for his 35th birthday. And he says at the end of it, you look at your list and you look back on not just the trophies, but also like the x-rays and not just the certificates, but the scars, and realize that you weren't just doing something, you were being something. And a lot of people, they've got to be more and do less. And it sounds a bit like a Hallmark card, but it's right. Whether you decide to enter a 5K and you do it, that sense of achievement and that sense of accomplishment, that does wonders for self-confidence, eradicating self-doubt. And you've got to keep pushing until you find what that limit is. Yeah, well, there's so much to be learned from that.
Simphiwe is still looking at you in a funny way. What do you want to ask, Simphiwe? It's not. It doesn't seem obvious to you, right?
No, not at all. Like when I heard the 35, I was like, oh, like I could do 35 mimosas. We could travel. Why do you have to just like put yourself through the most? I don't understand that. Why do I need to test God and be like, well, today, let's see. Hey, let's see if I'm gonna see another day. Like I'm just.
Yeah.
This is bollocks for me. Like, what?
Bollocks?
What?
Is it bollocks in Pee-wee?
It is. Really?
Can I just say that 35 mimosas would put me in the ER. I'm not a heavyweight at all in terms of drinking. You got to find you and go chase that.
Listen, Carl says this interview is a massive distraction for you and a waste of your time. You could be training. If you fail, it's going to be our fault. How do you feel about that?
Thank you, Carl. Forever may it be on your head, Gareth. No, you're right. I should be training. My training set up for later today. Don't stress, Carl. We got it under control. Thank you. Gareth, it is that thing. You're constantly going, "Oh, am I fit enough? Should I be training? Am I overtraining? Should I do more?" But you realize that you could never be properly prepared. But you prepare as much as you possibly can. And when you get on that plane, you've got to basically, unlike your last guest on K2, you can't exactly fake it till you make it.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna try something like that and fake it, because I'll definitely end up one of those bodies that just stays on the mountain forever. Dude, you always were the bucket list guy on Brent Lindeque's show, and that's where we first got to know you. What is still on your bucket list after K2? Because it seems to me you've done a lot of the things that many of us either dread or dream of. So what's next?
Sure. So the bucket list, and once again, in contrast to your last guest, I do not identify as rich, sadly. I'd really love to finish the 7 summits, which involves going to the highest point in Antarctica, which has got a $45,000 US price tag to it.
Wow.
And then going to the highest point in North America for a 3rd time and hopefully getting to the top. Finish the 7 summits. I used to have such a really smart-ass answer. I used to say, finish the 7 summits, attempt another 8,000 meter peak, maybe, build a raft and cross Lake Malawi, and then do something scary like have a child. And life happens in different ways, because my daughter's going to be turning 4 soon. So,
turning 4. Do you think about her when you go on these crazy adventures? Because you've got real world responsibilities here as well. It's not all about adventure.
Every waking minute. No, absolutely, every waking minute, and responsibility comes into it as well. We, the summit of the mountains not compulsory. Returning home is. Absolutely. My daughter's way too pretty, and I need a shotgun, and I need to be here with her when I get back. So, yeah.
All right, dude.
Yeah.
Listen, it's great to have you on. Great to have you on this morning, and all the best for your summit and all the good work that you're doing to raise awareness for mental health. It's really, really great to see you. Thank you so much, Robby. We'll talk to you again soon, and enjoy the climb. I hope it goes really well. Give us an update once you're back and safely defending your daughter with your shotgun.
Can I punt the website quick, Gareth?
Of course, go ahead.
climbk2sa.com. That's us. Yeah, and if anyone can contribute, that'd be amazing.
Okay, so let me just take this down and give it to everybody. climbk2sa.com. That's perfect. I'm going to put it up on the screen now, and then you can go and find out more by following Robby there. climbk2sa.com. Thanks, dude. Nice to see you.
A pleasure as always. Thank you so much.
Cool. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Don't you always feel, Simphiwe, when we have someone like that on, that you're not doing enough in your life? That's how I feel. I always feel like, I'm so lazy and useless.
The first thing that came to my mind was, what am I doing with my life? I don't even want to finish Ironman. Like, so what am I actually doing? You know, and I've just turned older, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, Robby, you're putting too much pressure on me now. Now I'm like, okay, I'm not doing a 35 or 30. I can tell you now, I won't do anything crazy, but I do want to challenge myself, you know?
Yeah, listen, I feel bad about these things because I do feel like a loser, and I do think, I'm so lazy and useless. But then I also consider that doing them is such a huge task that I'd probably hate it every step of the way. And, you know, people like Robby, they just, what they're really good at is committing themselves to this and then enjoying the process after that. I would absolutely hate it every step of the way. I can promise you now, I'd be grumpy and miserable, and I'd be thinking of it as a punishment. And if you go in with that attitude, it's just going to be hell.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, he goes back. That's my thing. I think I could do one. So I could be like, one day I'd love to run the marathon, right? And I kind of train and build up all my life, 10 years, 5 years, however long, to finish that one thing. He does them repeatedly. Like, he's like, just finish this. Let's try this. No. I'm like, that's where I'm like, no, that's crazy. Now this is, you did the one, you accomplished it. Why do you need to go try God again? Why do you need to just, put your life out there again? Why do you have to?
Corona's Boring says, start off small. Start with Antarctica.
Sure.
No.
Like,
go ahead.
You can do it for me.
For my 30th, I did something similar where I was doing something different with someone different rather than climbing mountains. That's more fun. Yonder, that doesn't sound as challenging if I'm reading between the lines there. But okay. All right.
You know, each their own. Shout out to you, Yonder. You did something different.
Hey,
I'm not going to judge you.
Moonchild also says it looks like Robby's also a model car collector because there were cars in the back. I didn't ask him about that, but maybe we must ask him to come on Collectomania one morning.
Yeah. And just hear all about the collections.
There we go. Well spotted there, Moonchild. I like it. You see, we've got such smart people watching and paying attention to the show in the mornings. Otherwise, we'd screw it up completely. I was married to one like Rob, says Joan or June. Seriously overrated personality type. Well, okay, no need now, just because you were hurt.
Clearly, girl, do you need to talk to Dr. Hanan? Like, do we need to just, do you need to air out some issues? I'm just asking. I'm not fighting. Just asking.
All right, dude. And please, just because it's that personality type doesn't mean it applies to Robby. So let's just keep that clear. Anyway,
yes. Gareth, can I just share with you, since I've been sharing on the show, that I have a birthday list and my birthday did take place recently. Yes. Update on the gifts that I got from my friends. I did not get a human-sized teddy bear, but I did get a few items from my list, like sneakers. I got like a couple of books, some of my favorite like chocolate and like biltong. So I just want to say, my friends did live up to, getting me some really nice gifts.
You pressured and strong-armed your friends into doing what you wanted. That is not called friendship. That is called
not at all
power. That's what that is.
No, not at all. The universe says, ask and you shall receive, and all I did was ask and I did receive.
I'm asking for Simphiwe's next birthday that she can go and climb K2 and Mount Everest for her birthday. That's going to be...
So, Gareth, how's your day going? Are you good?
All right. Very good. Thanks, everybody. It's been fun. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early at 6 a.m. We've got a lot to do tomorrow. Tomorrow is obviously the burning platform. Pumi is back. I am back with Pumi, and we've got some great guests through the course of tomorrow's show, as well as obviously the rest of this week too. If you've got any ideas, anything you want us to talk about, anybody you think we would be interested in hearing from on the show, let us know. contact@cliffcentral.com. And as MM says, like and subscribe, please, to the podcast and to the YouTube so we can get good ratings. It pushes us up in the algorithm, and then it makes us, makes us more successful so that we can be better for you. That's how we're going to do it. So please, do the likes and subscribes, as MM says. And thank God someone like MM is reminding me. Otherwise, I'd be in trouble every time for not remembering. All right. Have a great Wednesday. We will see you tomorrow. Cheers. Bye.